job clearing it up. Took them a couple of days to do it. Took a couple of vans. Was past there the other day, and there is continuing to be rubbish put down and so forth. So I do feel the situation needs to get more monitoring. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dennis. James Reed, would you like to ask you a question?
Thank you. The planning consent for houses in 3 Mile Cross and Spencer's Wood requires that the speed limit on Basingstoke Road be reduced to 30 miles an hour. Could you confirm why the council took the decision to delay the introduction of this speed reduction by increasing the trigger point from the occupation of the 150th home to the 350th home without any public consultation, and which member of the executive approved this?
Who's going to answer that? Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Reid, for your question. A variety of traffic management requirements and associated speed reduction was approved with this planning consent and is secured within Section 106 agreements, which have triggers associated with the delivery of these measures. The speed reduction required traffic calming features which would be embedded within the road structure. It became apparent that the level of known planned highway works within the area, that includes the ongoing sewage and surface water works, the Basingstoke Road Church Lane junction works, the 3 Mile Cross access junction alterations, as well as other utility works within the area, would cause significant disruption. This heightened the concern that completing the speed reduction and its associated traffic calming measures would then be pulled apart, ripped up, as the other features were progressed. A minor consideration was wanting to manage the road spaces for the upgrades, as there are a number of projects ongoing in this area on top. As such, we wanted to time these so that they cause the least amount of inconvenience to road users. However, this then led to an issue associated with the planning approval associated with this work. Originally, the speed reduction was due to be completed on the occupation of the 150th home, as is stated. But unfortunately, there was no way the other works could be completed in time. The council was then faced with a difficult decision on how to retain the principle of implementing the speed limit reduction with its associated traffic calming features after the other work was completed and respect the trigger point. The only option was to move the trigger point, which they did, to the occupation of the 350th home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Mr. Reid, have you a supplementary question? Would you like to ask it, please?
Thank you very much for the answer. Given everything that you said, when does the council feel that the trigger point will now be met?
I don't have that information to hand. I will find out and get back to you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Barr? No? Okay, that question will be answered by a written reply. Clive Chafer. Mr. Chafer? No? That will be a written reply as well. Jenny, listen.
I'd like to ask a question standing in my name.
Simon,
Thank you for your question, Jenny. Good evening. The Council is committed to achieving good design through the planning decisions that it makes. Whilst the Borough Design Guide is only guidance, and each case must be considered on its own merits, this document has actually been very successful in enabling the Council to defend the refusal of harmful proposals at any subsequent appeal, and it is being used to inform all planning decisions. You're quite correct that central government has in fact extended permitted development rights quite significantly over the last few years, and this has resulted in the local planning authority having very limited or even no control over certain categories of new developments. I'm not aware of any planning permissions being granted that conflict with the Borough Design Guide in a way that is harmful. While there have been a number of new planning officers at the Council, no planning decision is made by only one person, as all cases are checked and authorised by experienced senior planning officers, most of whom have been with the Council for a number of years.
Jenny, have you a supplementary question?
Apart from building design, the Borough Design Guide also covers, on page 45, inverted commas, the quality of landscape, in particular soft landscape, and how it contributes significantly to the character of the local area and to the quality of the residential environment. For example, front gardens and boundaries. We hear more and more in the media about how our environment affects people's well-being, how hedges reduce air pollution, how gardens make people happy and improve their mental health. Please will you come to Whitegates and see what happens when the aims of the design guide are ignored. Something needs to be done.
Thank you for the invitation. I'll be happy to take it up.
That's the end of question time. We're on number 7 now. The report of the returning officer. Who would like to propose the movement? Councillor Charlotte Haytham-Taylor. Do you have a seconder? Julie McGee-Sunday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This year there are 60 polling stations to manage on polling day and 58 candidates contesting 18 seats across the borough. On behalf of members, I'd like to express our thanks to the monitoring officer, the presiding officers, poll clerks and counting and postal opening staff to ensure that this May's elections ran smoothly right across the borough. To this end, I recommend the Council notes the report as set out on pages 43 to 46 in the agenda.
Councillor Julie McGee, would you like to?
I don't have anything additional to add, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, so let's, if there's nobody else wishes to speak, let's take it to the vote. Note the report. All those in favour? That is approved. Thank you. Questions? Other questions? If you wish to leave the chamber now, by all means feel free to do so. Petitions, number 8, section 8, petitions. Have we got any petitions been offered? Any petitions from members submitted to the council? No? Okay. Number 9, now I have paid service announcement. I've already made my announcement, which I was going to make in this section, which was about the charity. Councillor Ferris.
Could I ask, I believed it was going to be in the Mayor's statement. There was a petition presented at the last council meeting on the 22nd of March by myself and Bob Pitts on the campaign for Royal Wokingham, which exceeded the threshold for a public meeting. Could I have any indication as to the date and time and location of such a meeting, please?
Having just sat down here tonight for 5 minutes, if you allow me, I'll write to you about that during the next 7 days. Okay, so then we move on to statement from the Leader of the Council and the Executive Member. Councillor Charlotte Haytham-Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and may I be the first to congratulate you and welcome you in your new role and wish you the very best of luck for the coming year ahead. I'd just like to say a few words about the outgoing Mayor, Rob Stanton, who's given 16 years to this council, borough and his residents as serving as an executive member, deputy leader and finally and fittingly, I believe, as Mayor. I'm sorry that he's out of the chamber. In particular, I'd like to highlight his excellent record as executive member for Children's Services, and it seems incredibly apt that one of his last engagements as Mayor was at an award ceremony to recognise the contribution of our foster carers. I'm sure that I'm reflecting all of the views of everyone here tonight when I say that he will be sorely missed, though I think perhaps we're all slightly pleased that it means that our meetings might be a little bit shorter. Rob is a real legend, and I know that he'll leave behind a great legacy. I also want to start by welcoming our new members here this evening to the Chamber. On the Labour benches, we have Carl Duran and also Rachel Burgess. On the Lib Dem, benches we have David Hare, and welcome back again, and Helen Power also, who many of us will remember. She was the political assistant for Lib Dems. And finally, on the Conservative benches, we have Graham Howe, representing Remley, Moorgrave and Ruscombe, Daniel Sargent, representing Finchampstead North, Guy Grandison, returning to the Council, representing Lynn Early, welcome back, and Jenny Chang, who runs South Lake Ward. Congratulations. Let me pass on this Council's commiserations also to those members who were unsuccessful in seeking re-election. Michael Fairmanger, Mark Ashwell, Beth Rowland, and of course my able deputy, David Lee. All of them gave between them many years of committed service to our community. So on behalf of members here tonight and the residents of this borough, I also want to thank them for everything that they have done. I suppose I must inevitably begin with the local elections. The Conservatives lost a net of 3 seats overall, not 4, as the working paper would have you believe. But in all the noise around these elections, a clear piece of information seems to have been lost. We were the most successful party. We won the majority of seats and 45% of all votes cast across the borough. I have no doubt that the opposition tonight will claim some great victory out of all of the elections, but we should note that Labour had just won 2 out of the 18 seats they contested, and the Lib Dems didn't even bother to put up candidates for all of the wards. And quite conveniently, they chose not to field a candidate in Alderfield. Perhaps Gary Cowan is not quite as independent as he claims. And incidentally, I know that Councillor Cowan has also been making claims recently in his announcements that he intends to form a residents' association party, while somehow also being independent, and wrote in last week's newspaper that there has been, I quote, over 20 years of Conservative misrule. I know that a week is a long time in politics, but surely Councillor Cowan hasn't forgotten that he was a Conservative councillor for most of those same 20 years. Indeed, as an executive member, he was instrumental in bringing in the most of the housing policies that he now rails against. The truth is, just as across the country, there was no clear outright winners, as in Woking Borough. The opposition will no doubt try to paint it as defeat and an overwhelming victory, believing as they do that history will be kind to them, and they will indeed try to rewrite it. The residents, though, did send a clear message on the 3rd of May. We've heard the message and we're listening to them. If our residents feel that they're not being listened to, then we'll need to redouble our efforts to show that we've taken on board what they have to say. We have started on so many ambitious projects, and their size and scale must mean that we don't always get things right. We acknowledge that, and it's important that we seek to fix the things that are wrong, rather than writing off any attempts to do something as new and as an immediate failure, as our opposition always seems to do. Across public services, we need to see a cultural shift that moves sharply away from the ethos that says we must leave it up to the state. Woking Borough Council is no exception. As I announced earlier this year, we will be undertaking work on a new council plan. The plan will not simply be a long document setting up unachievable targets and left in a drawer to gather dust the moment the ink has dried. We will be working with organisations and bodies that this council deals with to build working partnerships that will set out not just what the council can deliver for them, but what together we can do to achieve a better borough. Similarly, we want to work with residents to shape the priorities of the services they use and understand how we can better work with them, and also how residents can take more responsibility. Everyone living in this borough needs to feel that they have a stake in their community, that they have ownership of the things that happen and the decisions that are made. For too many years we've stood in this chamber and said we cannot go on like this, and yet we have continued much as we have always done. If we truly want our borough to continue to be a success for decades to come, we need to ensure that residents, including every one of us here tonight, take more responsibility for our communities, and that this council continues to respond to residents' needs and deliver what they seem to think that is important to them. I believe that on this side of the chamber, we have the answers to the challenges that face our borough. Our manifesto set out a range of ambitious policy plans that we will begin to implement or continue implementing this year. If the opposition want to work with us and develop joint approaches tackling many of our challenges, then I welcome your contributions. To deliver our programme, I have reshaped my executive team. Councillor Julia McGee-Sumner will continue as the Executive Member for Finance and Corporate Resources and will also be Deputy Leader of Council. He will be assisted by Councillor Charles Margett as his Deputy Executive Member. Councillor Richard Delinsky will continue as Executive Member for Adult Social Care, Health and Wellbeing, with Councillor Laura Blumenthal as Deputy Executive Member. Councillor Keith Baker will continue as Executive Member for Highways and Transport, and Councillor Anthony Pollock as Deputy Executive Member. Councillor Simon Weeks will continue as Executive Member for Planning and Enforcement, and Councillor Norman Jorgensen will carry on as Executive Member for Environment, Leisure and Libraries. Councillor Stuart Munro will take on the reshaped role of Executive Member for Business, Economic Development and Strategic Planning, leading on the local plan update with the assistance of Councillor Wayne Smith as Deputy Executive Member. Councillor Pauline Hellier-Simons will be returning to the Executive to take on the role of Executive Member for Children's Services, assisted by Councillor Shahid Yunus as the Deputy Executive Member. Councillor Philip Murphin will take on the newly created role of Executive Member for Regeneration, taking on the task of completing the regeneration of Wokingham Town Centre. Finally, Councillor Pauline Jorgensen will step into the new post of Executive Member for Housing. A full breakdown of the roles and responsibilities of these members will be set out in the amended Section 5 of the Constitution. In order for our borough to survive and thrive as a great place to live and work, we must invest in and shape our communities to fit our residents' needs today and for the years to come. We will move away from a relationship that puts the council above local people and instead make sure that it is a council that does not depend on government funding, but instead works with residents to deliver on the best for our community. And we will continue to be champions for this area with the people who live here, standing up for our borough in Westminster. This is a time of great change in the world, in our country and in local government. As a Conservative, I believe that we have to adapt to the times or get left behind. Let us continue forward together to create something great that will outlast all of us, something that we can all be proud of.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lindsay Ferris.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I would like to pay tribute to a number of those who are no longer in this chamber. Tonight, we say farewell to the outgoing Mayor Rob Stanton. Many of us on this side consider him a real gentleman, and he will be missed. I should in particular like to acknowledge Beth Rowland, who represented Southlake Ward in Woodley so well for the last 22 years. She has represented her residents in many ways and has worked tirelessly on their behalf over this period. I should also like to remember my friend Bob Pitts, who is now retired to the Isle of Wight. I should also like to thank David Lee and Mark Ashwell for their contributions. Welcome to all new members, but especially Helen Power and David Hare who joined our team. The role of an opposition leader is to provide a credible alternative to the ruling group. I will not just oppose or be critical of what has been proposed, but I will provide constructive alternatives and, where appropriate, to give cross-party support where it is deserved. Last autumn, the Liberal Democrats launched the first phase of our manifesto under the heading Homes for Local People, and our second phase earlier this year. We plan to build on these and will develop and enhance the proposals over the coming months so that residents of Wokingham Borough will have a clear opportunity to see what we would do if we ran this council. The recent local elections have given the ruling group food for thought, and many residents will now expect action from the leaders of this council. We shall keep you to account. In this regard, I have restructured the Lib Dem team so that we will now have shadow members of the group covering all executive positions. I have to tweak it a little bit, but I've got most of the posts in there. This will enable us to build up our knowledge and experience, which is so vital in keeping the ruling group on their toes. Finally, I acknowledge that now there is a third group here on the council chamber, and we welcome them here. And of course, we have Gary, our independent councillor, who I am sure will provide us with some interesting questions throughout the year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. We're now moving on to number 11, which is member question time. And we only have 20 minutes for this, and supplementaries allowed. And I would very much hope that members will ask the question standing in their name, which will mean everybody will get their question. Councillor Shepherd-Debay,
Well, I'll make it very short. When will we be able to deliver the Winnish Relief Road Part 2?
Thank you for your question. No road scheme is ever straightforward. This may be a short stretch of road, but the standard processes and procedures remain the same, irrespective of the length. You are correct in saying it does not need Network Rail approval, but due to the proximity of their assets, the Council is obliged to have discussions with them. The same proximity of assets applies to Highways England, who also have to be engaged in discussions. There are also issues over utilities routing and levels linking into Reading Road. Resolving these simply takes time. As I go through the projected timetable, it is important to understand that the ability to meet these timings depend on not discovering unforeseen obstacles and, of course, the weather that can delay any project. In March 2018, application number 180760, I'm sure that's in your memory, was received for the Winnish Relief Road Phase 2. This was a full planning application for the proposed development of Relief Road, connecting the B3030 King Street Lane and Winnish Relief Road Phase 1 to the A329 Reading Road. This includes 2 new roundabout junctions on the A329 Reading Road, 2 new minor residential access roads, and associated works including traffic signals, crossings, drainage, footways and cycleways. This road forms Phase 2 of the Winnish Relief Road and part of the western section of the Northern Distributor Road. Public consultation commenced on the 23rd of the 3rd, 2018, with 109 letters delivered to potentially impacted neighbours. A total of 88 comments have been received to date. Determination of the planning application is anticipated in the summer, around about August. On the assumption that the planning application is approved, the period of August 2018 to May 2019 will be dedicated to creating the detailed plans needed to create the new road. This will include the contractor organising what they need to complete the project, including staff. It also includes dealing with any planning conditions imposed, especially around such things as archaeology and ecology. Please remember also that the programme needs to be managed around the nesting season to enable the clearance of the site. And not forgetting, as we saw today earlier, the unpredictable weather having an impact as well. So putting all these points together brings the Council to a spring construction starting on site around April-May 2019, with a 10 months construction period brings the Council to a target opening date around March 2020. Finally, can I remind you that these milestone dates are target dates and will be influenced by many things, so I cannot guarantee that they will be met. No one can. Clearly, the Council and its contractors will do everything in their power to make sure these milestones are met. If and when any delays are looking likely, I will endeavour to ensure that local councillors will be kept fully informed. Thank you.
do you have a supplementary?
Since the residents of both Wokingham and Winnish are looking forward to this road as much as possible, why wasn't some of these consultations that you plan to do after the planning applications approved weren't done already, which they could also be finished so we could actually start it sooner? And the nesting season doesn't start during November, December, and January. You can start building then.
I don't recall mentioning any consultations after the planning approval, so I'm not quite sure where.
Consultations with Network Rail.
Excuse me, I'm talking. I don't recall saying anything about consultations after. I've given you a detailed timetable, which is what you requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Gary Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. congratulate you on your appointment. I would have seconded you if I had the opportunity, and I compliment you on your deputy and your charity, which are both excellent. I ask the question standing in my name.
Thank you very much. Councillor Norman Yours.
Council receives approximately 400 tree work applications per year to carry out works on protected trees. Members are notified of these applications for information. Details are posted on the Council's website in the same way as planning applications, and members and the public can comment, and the comments will be taken into account. Government guidance requires that the primary issues to be addressed are the health of the tree and the impact on protected species. While amenity issues are also considered, these are not the primary factors, and if the tree is in a poor health or having a detrimental impact on other structures, this could override amenity issues. Details of all decisions on tree work applications are kept and displayed on the Council's website, as with planning permissions. The local plan update is revisiting the Wokingham Borough landscape character appraisal, and through the local plan update process, there is an opportunity for anyone to comment on the Council's tree policies.
Councillor Cowan, do you have a supplementary?
Yes. I did ask a question on similar line of the March executive, which was headed EM1. I had the good fortune to get a reply from both you and the then deputy leader, now sadly departed. Your reply referred to the fact that I'd asked a question in council about 6 months ago, and there was a long email correspondence before this on protected trees, probably going back 12 months or so. You are correct when you said there's no statutory duty to consult, so this administration does not consult. My question, emails I received from this council went further by implying that the parish councils and of course our residents know nothing about trees, and our officers know everything about trees, so it was a waste of time consulting with them, so we don't. My question is in two parts. As our residents are viewed, or would appear to be viewed as useless, this Conservative administration is incapable of proper judgment by not consulting on the massive massacres of thousands of trees today, not forgetting the ones to be butchered in the future. Is this Conservative administration so irresponsible by not keeping records of trees they have allowed to be felled, or is it a deliberate policy to hide from residents the massive levels of destruction they are responsible for?
I'm sure there's much of a question there. It's more of a statement that seemed to be defamation of all sorts of people, councillors and council, etc. I just remind you, amongst other things, Gary, that you were the executive member for the environment for a couple of years, not so long ago. These tree policies haven't changed in that time, so I'm really not sure why you bring it up and didn't deal with it at that.
Mr. Mayor, a point of order. When I was a member for the environment, as the deputy leader of the council said in his reply to me at the last executive meeting, I was responsible for the recruitment of an additional tree officer to this authority.
Thank you. I think we're going to have a bit of a problem getting through this in time, so I'm going to propose that we extend the meeting by 30 minutes. Would you like to second that? Second that. Can I take a vote among the members? All those in favour? It's just we've got so many nominations, we won't get through it all of them. Okay. Councillor Burgess, your questions.
The handling of the town centre regeneration project caused considerable distress for residents in my ward. People have told me how difficult they find it to navigate the town, especially older people, parents with crowns, and those with disabilities. Many vulnerable people, such as those with learning difficulties, have lost their independence. They simply cannot navigate their way around the town. Traffic congestion has been appalling, and it is turning many people away. The project has suffered unexpected delays, and some local businesses I've spoken to have seen their takings plummet go to Bracknell or Reading, instead of subjecting yourselves to the chaos of the town centre?
Can I ask you to ask a question, please? I know you're new here, but if you wish to make a statement that's different, please ask your question. There are other people that are going to need answers.
More action needs to be taken now to ensure residents can continue to use their town successfully. What concrete steps will be taken to improve the town centre for residents and businesses during the remainder of these works?
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Good evening and welcome to the Council. Before dealing with the specific issues you raised, it is worth recapping on the reasons behind the regeneration and improvement work that's taking place in Wokingham. The works now progressing stem from the realisation that we had to make massive investments to secure a vibrant future for the town centre. This need was clearly articulated by residents and businesses who had rightly realised that the town centre was in danger of a slow and painful death if we did not intervene. The town centre lacked the range of shops and other attractions to draw in and keep visitors, and thus it was losing far too much retail spend to our neighbours. Much of the land in the town centre was in the hands of private investors who lacked the ability to get a regeneration underway. The solution to this crisis was set out in our core strategy and the Wokingham Town Centre Master Plan, both which were adopted in 2010 after significant consultation and engagement, and is being delivered through a multi-million-pound investment programme. We have become a major landowner in the town centre in order to ensure the necessary regeneration takes place and that the benefits will come to the community as a whole. It's vital that people understand this in the context that when considering the current and temporary problems. On the specific points you raise, we are very aware of the disruption caused by the marketplace improvement works and share your frustration at the unexpected and unavoidable delays. Wokingham Town Centre has been more difficult to get to and get around, and we have apologised to residents and businesses for that. However, our contractor, Balfour Beatty, has worked extremely hard to maintain access to all shops and other businesses at all times, and the site has remained fully accessible to all residents. Given the scale of work they're undertaking, this is a significant achievement. To give you some indication of the scale, enough earth has been excavated from the site to fill an Olympic swimming pool. Contractors are now laying the 3,000 square metres of high-quality York stone paving that will provide the fantastic finished product. They've had to deal with extremely difficult and unforeseen underground issues, and are rectifying problems with exiting utilities and pipelines. We've taken access very seriously, and members of the project team and the contractors have met CLASP, that's the local self-advocacy group for people with learning disabilities, to listen to their problems and respond wherever possible. Through this engagement with CLASP, vulnerable adults have met directly with those on site, so that they felt more comfortable to approach them if they were experiencing difficulty in navigating the area. CLASP has also helped us to improve signage. It should be pointed out that the marketplace improvements will create a far more accessible town centre, and one of the main benefits will be to provide an even surface and uncluttered area that will be a lot easier for older people, those with mobility issues, and people pushing prams and buggies to get around. During the design stage, 2 dedicated sessions were held with disability access groups who helped to shape the final design and reflect some of their specific needs. We know this is a difficult time for the town centre and have worked with the town council and local business via the Wokingham Business Association to promote and support businesses during the works. This support has included organising and publicising events to draw people into the town, producing promotional online videos that have reached thousands of people, paying for advertising in the local medium, and providing free advice to businesses hoping to apply for business rate reduction. We will continue to work with the Town Council and the Town Centre businesses to promote the town during and after the marketplace works. Ultimately, the key to promoting the town centre is to talk it up. There are a great many reasons to come into Wokingham, even during the current works, and there will be even more once they and the wider regeneration are complete. I would have thought that all members who represent town centre wards will be able to provide genuine support to local businesses by backing the town, rather than attempting to lead it down.
Councillor Burgess, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes.
Thank you for your reply, but it is clear that residents in Wokingham are not happy with the way regeneration is being handled. With this in mind, will the executive member meet with me and with local residents to discuss our ideas, such as better access routes across the works to avoid lengthy diversions to get from A to B, much larger maps and much larger information boards at each key intersection, wider walkways to allow us access for prams and wheelchairs, all directional signs to shops, and lastly, meet and greet staff at key intersections to help direct people to busy areas.
Thank you for your suggestions. I do note that you're actually meeting with the head of regeneration and a senior planning officer in the next couple of weeks. I will attempt to try and join you for that meeting so that we can actually discuss this further. With regards to meeting people, we are planning a series of new sessions with all stakeholder groups where we're going to be looking at forwards with the joint regeneration and highways responsibilities that I now have for the town centre. Previously, I only was responsible for regeneration, so therefore I couldn't comment on highways. Gladly, this now incorporates highways, so that's a more efficient way of dealing with the whole process. So I'm sure you will share with us when we do have these stakeholder groups, and we'll encourage your input as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, we've got time for one more question, but unfortunately not time for a supplementary. So, Shepherd Debay, aye?
This council has only 14 female members, female councillors, out of a total of 54 councillors who serve it. I also feel we're not proportionally representing many of the other areas, many of the other groups that live in Woking Borough Council area, particularly the Labour groups. What is this council proposing to do to ensure that we are representing our community appropriately?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Shepherd-Debay, for your question. I greatly value increased diversity and the benefits it brings in representing the diverse needs of our community. Council has always provided general information to all who may be interested in standing for elections to become a councillor. However, later this year, the Council will be undertaking further promotional information campaigns for all parts of our community who may have an interest in standing in future elections for the Borough Council. I'd ask that any councillor who has an interest in this important subject to send me their ideas and work with me on an effective campaign to ensure that we are representing our community appropriately. However, it's not just up to the council to attract councillors to stand for election, but also up to political parties and how they attract candidates from a diversity of backgrounds. If our electors have a wider choice at the ballot box, then our chamber will also be more diverse. But I'll be the first to acknowledge that there are challenges. I have faced barriers in my journey to become a councillor, and I know that these are not just isolated incidences. But I'm also a firm believer in not positively discriminating, instead making sure that people from whatever background have equality of opportunity and making sure that there are no barriers to any particular person who would wish to stand to become a councillor and represent their local area. There are many organisations within different political parties to encourage more diversity in politics. This may be a solution to some of the issues, but I don't believe that it's the only way to bring about change. I'm proud to lead this council as a politician, but I don't stand here as a female leader of the council, but as leader of this council.
Thank you.
Point forward, if I may. We've had a short number of questions. You made a comment about one questioner about the length of the question. We have had several answers which have included statements rather than answers. So can I, and future council meetings, can we have what I would call more concise answers? I know sometimes we can say we'll answer in our question in our name. It has foreshortened at least 4 or 5 questions in the debate tonight, and I would hope we can move forward in future meetings.
Thank you for your observation. Something I was noticed. It means that any questions that you've got now, you will get written answers for. Okay, we can move on to the political balance report. Do I have a proposal for this? Charlotte Hasty-Taylor, Councillor. Do you have a seconder? Giving you the Sonra. Would you like to speak now?
Thank you, I'll reserve my mic.
Would you like to speak, Julian?
I'll reserve as well, please.
Is there anybody else in the chamber who wishes to speak? No? Okay. Charlotte.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the report is set out on pages 47 onwards, and it has 7 recommendations, and I propose the report as set out on the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Did you wish to add anything to that?
No, I've got nothing additional to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to the vote on this. All those that are voting for the report, the recommendations in the report, please show. Carried. Appointment of chairman, vice chairman of the councils. I intend to take the nominations on this en bloc. So,
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Following the report of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Scrutiny in Local Authorities, on the evening of 9th of January 2018, the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, that's ours, resolved that all Scrutiny and Audit Committee members were to choose their own chairs and vice chairs. We asked to be included in the parliamentary pilot on this, but have not yet had a response. We actually do not require Parliament's permission to implement this resolution. Indeed, we used to do it this way. We also noted that at its last meeting, the Constitutional Review Group also accepted that Scrutiny and Audit Committees should elect their own chairs and vice chairs. What the Council Constitution says at 4.2.1.1t, and I'll paraphrase to a certain extent, is that the Council will appoint the Chairman and Vice Chairman from the names put forward by the groups. And of course, it's only one group that's putting it forward. If we can persuade the leader to withdraw these names submitted to the Council tonight, we cannot elect these chairs tonight, and it can therefore be left to members of the Scrutiny and Audit Committees to elect their own chairs and vice chairs as recommended by the Parliamentary Select Committee, our own Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, and the Constitutional Review Group. I propose that we ask the leader to withdraw the nominations for chairs and vice chairs of Scrutiny and Audit Committees, so members of said committees can elect their own chairs and vice chairs at their first meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I'm disappointed you asked it here and you didn't ask it before the meeting. But I would, sorry, Councillor.
Thank you. As I will say, I am on the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee for probably the next 3 or 4 minutes. My understanding of our decision was that it would not be coming in this year because we wanted to go away and work out a detailed mechanism for ensuring that this could be done fairly and appropriately, and also ensuring that there's an appropriate balance of skills for people going to this. Therefore, it would be delayed for a year until this mechanism can be worked through and sorted out, although I do admire your enthusiasm.
Actually, the delay was to be about how members elected, how members became members of the board rather than be appointed effectively by the leader.
Can I just suggest it is work in progress to the Constitution Group. You've made an appeal to the leader. Would you like to make that appeal outside this chamber and we'll continue with tonight? As I say, it's work in progress at the moment. It hasn't been agreed, so it's very difficult for me to change the rules.
I'll just point out that particular committee hasn't met for about a year. It's hard. It's difficult to make progress. Thank you.
Can we just take this? Sorry. Charlotte.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm very happy to withdraw these names. However, a lot of work and time has gone into speaking to these individuals, and many of these individuals would very much like to chair and all of them would like to chair and vice chair these different committees, and have great skills that they will be able to contribute, and they have been picked on their merit. So I hope that if I am withdrawing these, that when it comes to the individual decisions on these different committees, that by me withdrawing these names tonight, that the various different committees will choose to nominate the same people.
Can I just check whether the Constitution is actually done? Just bear with me. Councillor Hayton-Taylor, it is in, you can make that offer, it's within you can make that offer, constitutionally you can. Are you happy with that, Councillor Hayton?
Yes, I am personally happy with that because
It's a step in the right direction. I think it's the right way to do it, and we can sort out the constitutional way of doing it in the coming year. Thank you.
I was going to echo that from our group. I think it's a good step forward, and thank you for the offer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we move on to number 14, the appointment to panel working group. I would like to take the ones that are uncontested on block, and only the ones where there are other additional nominations, where there's more than one nomination. So can we take right. Yes, okay. Can you just go can you go through them, please? Thank you.
As we said, Mayor said, we've taken them on block, and the ones I will be asking about are the shaded ones. So I'm going to ask for votes on names, and I'll be going through names in alphabetical order, so if I don't show hands. So, adoption panel for one member, votes for Rachel Burgess. Votes for Kate Hayes. And votes for David Hare. Carried for Kate Hayes. Fostering panel, votes for Rachel Burgess. Votes for Ola Corinne Clark. Votes for David Hare. Carried Ola Corinne Clark. Schools Forum, one member. Votes for Prue Bray. Votes for Andy Croy. Votes for Shahid Yunus. Carried Shahid Yunus. Secure accommodation panel, one member. Votes for Andy Croy. John Halsall. David Hare. Carried John Halsall. Place and Community Partnership, Carl Doran. Diane King. Rachel Shepherd Degree. Carried Diane King. Thames Basin East Joint Strategic Partnership, one member. Rachel Burgess. Ian Pittock. Angus Ross. Carried Angus Ross. Substitutes.